There you go.
I can trim this down. Yeah, I think we're probably only going for less than 10 minutes too, so that's pretty brief.
Sure.
But yeah. You want an intro?
Sure. What do we call this?
Student study,
Student study.
something like that.
Sunday student studies. The triple S.
I think we should just leave this in here.
Yeah, just for the banter.
Yeah. Hey, I guess we're here.
Yeah, right.
Oh, the camera's on.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Welcome. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah, so we're going through, I guess, a bit of a different thing that we're doing. I mean, since we aren't able to meet in person, we're trying to figure out things we can do for you guys and things that we can also do just for ourselves even. To still engage with the Word, to still learn, to still practice, and keep our feet wet with regard to our studies. And so, kind of moving away from what's the difference, and even from the Gospel of John, we're hoping to just go through the Christmas story and study the different implications of different phases throughout the story. At least with this week, we want to talk about the pre-incarnate Jesus before he even became, the baby.
That's like a pre-incarnate. That's like a $4 word.
$4 word.
Yeah, it's maybe a $5 word.
$5 word.
Yeah, pre-incarnate. Yeah.
That's what I paid all the money for.
Yeah. Get a Bible degree, you can learn the $5 words. Yeah. That's good. Yeah, we want to continue to go deep in the Word with you, and so we're going to be posting these every week through the Christmas season, trying to help us kind of go deeper in it. And we're going to start in John 1. So if you've got your Bible, I think the purpose of this is to study together. So if you've got your Bible, open it up to John 1. I think we're going to be looking at 1 to 14 kind of to get started and see where we're at there. So what version you have there?
I got the ESV.
Ooh, ESV too.
Let's go.
English Standard Version. So if you got your Bible app open, I don't know how you can watch it and look at the Bible app. It's kind of two phones.
Probably, if they're loaded like that. Nice. Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So, John 1, verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. He came as a witness, to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. The true light, which gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son of the Father, full of grace and truth.
That's a neat passage. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to memorize all of it for a school assignment.
We should have made him quote it. Yeah, he took the easy out. We actually have a video somewhere of Alex quoting it with helium, like after he breathed in helium from a balloon, and he had this like high cartoony voice.
Yeah, and the funny thing is that Lori didn't expect me to be able to quote it, so I inhaled it, and she was like, "Quote John 1." I'm like, "Okay," and I was actually practicing it for class, and she's like, "Wait a minute, you know this?" Like, yeah, I memorized it for class.
Probably should share that on the Instagram. So, but yeah, so neat passage. I know it's a little confusing at first because it's like, who is this word? Like, what is it talking about? And I think you can't really understand the whole passage to get who is this word. And obviously, John is a gospel. It's unpacking the life of Jesus, so that should be a clue.
Yeah.
But verse 14 kind of really clues us in to help us understand who the word is, don't you think?
Yeah, the Word is the one who became flesh and dwelt among us.
Yeah.
Which is quite simply
Jesus, yeah. So, when you read the word here, you can just put in the name Jesus. And we could get into like the idea of the word in like amongst Greeks who understood this, the word logos, and they had a lot of weight behind this word, and they thought it was really intriguing. So to refer to Jesus as the logos really was kind of a powerful statement.
Yeah, because it was kind of like a sort of weird cosmological, metaphysical concept that exists beyond reality and time.
Yeah.
Which is really weird in the fact that that's kind of all encompassed in this one word, which literally means word.
Yeah.
And
it was greater than just word, like words that you write down. It was like this metaphysical, spiritual idea that they really looked to. And so to refer to Jesus as that was really saying, hey, this is somebody significant. And I think this is awesome too. It's like, because we're talking about Jesus was before Jesus was born.
Mm-hmm.
And I think at Christmas sometimes we think, oh, this is where Jesus' life started. And this is when Jesus really became flesh.
Yeah.
But Jesus always was. And that's this idea of the pre-incarnate. Incarnate is like incarnation. That's when Jesus became a human, became a baby. But Jesus existed before he became a baby, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to think about that.
Yeah, so he existed for all eternity, even back, you would say...
From the very beginning, or whatever we can constitute as the beginning within our finite minds. Because if we even go back all the way to the beginning of the Bible now, in Genesis 1, God, is making a lot of things. And right now it's not separated yet. Genesis 1 begins with, in the beginning, in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. But yet we continue to go on and it says God, 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 God. And then out of nowhere in verse 26, if you're following along somehow, Genesis 1:26, then God said, let us make man in our image and after our likeness. And so...
Who's he talking to?
Yeah. This whole time it's been just God, but now God refers to himself as plural instead of just a singular person.
Yeah. And I believe even the word God throughout Genesis 1 is Elohim, I believe, which is a plural word.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so the word for in Hebrew, Elohim is a plural noun. And so it's like even God, but it's not God's. It's like, it's interesting. It's interesting, but it even implies in the name that God is more than one person. Even though he's one, and we were talking about this before, he's one nature.
Yeah.
But we know he's revealed in three persons, and he says, let us make man in our image.
Yeah.
And so we see that the pre-incarnate Christ was right there from the beginning.
From the very beginning. And along with the Father and the Spirit.
Yeah. And it said the Spirit, I think, earlier in chapter 1 too, right? The Spirit was over the waters or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then we know here from John 1, he says, all things were made through him, the Word, right?
Yeah.
That's talking about Jesus. And without him was not anything made that was made. So, just in case you're like, well, it's most things. It's like, no, it's everything. Everything that had a beginning was made by Jesus.
Everything. Yeah. And I think we've talked about it before, how, the nature reveals the glory of God. When you look out upon a mountain range or a field of flowers, everything within that, all of it was made to its very most finite detail. That every single thing, even you, were made down to your smallest molecule, were created very intentionally.
Yeah.
And so there's beauty in that God created everything somehow. Jesus was a part of that creation somehow, and yet made everything down to its smallest detail, more than you could ever know.
That's cool. Yeah. And so we have Jesus creating everything. I told you I wanted to share Hebrews 1. It kind of talks about the same idea. Really powerful verse. It says, he, and then speaking of the Son of God, kind of from verse 2 and verse 3 of chapter 1 in Hebrews, he is the radiance of the glory of God, the exact imprint of his nature, and he upholds the universe by the word of his power. So it's those are pretty strong statements.
Wow.
It's this is who Jesus is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cults, false Christianities that teach that Jesus is God's son. He's a created being. We talk about Jesus as God's son in terms of his role, but they actually think, God made Jesus. And they don't believe what I would say John 1 here, Hebrews 1, Genesis 1 teaches that Jesus is God. He's been around forever. He is, and it's not even right to say he's a part of God. It's he is fully God.
Yeah.
And there was a time where he also became fully man as well, but he still was God, right?
Yeah. That's a weird thing to consider. And if for any of you theology junkies, the word is hypostatic union.
Hmm.
You know, it's crazy to consider how 100% of God and 100% man could then come together into this one person.
Yeah.
You know, and sure, I mean, a question I've always had is like, you know, if he was 100% God and 100% man, then, you know, could he, you know, fly? Or could he,
if he wanted to.
you know, or do different miraculous things? And he's proven himself, you know, as we've been studying through John with the junior hires, that he's capable of miracles.
Yeah.
And still at the same time feels pain, feels sadness. Like we went over the death of Lazarus in the Gospel of John, and he weeps for the death of his friend. And so that's where his humanity comes out as well. But yet at the same time, we can never forget that it was right after that he wept for his friend that he then brought him back to life in the same way that he would eventually bring us back to life as well. So,
hi, Kelly. You can walk by. Yeah. You have to say hi now. Everyone say hi to Kelly.
Hi.
So, so he is like this, he is the very God of gods. And even though it is like this mystery of how he became even a baby, like that always seems weird to me. Like, what is God in a baby? Like, was he a self-conscious baby?
Oh,
like,
that's so interesting.
You know, it's just that he couldn't communicate, you know, and we know he didn't sin. It's just, you know, we don't know. We're not really sure how that coincides, but we know that he was, as later we'll hear in the Christmas story, he was Emmanuel, which means
God with us.
God with us. Like the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. We've seen his glory. The glory of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. You know, we were talking about, hey, what's the takeaway of this idea that Jesus has been forever, is God, and has been and will be God forever. That he existed before the manger, the story we all love. Before he was in Mary's belly, he existed and has always. And I think as we were talking about it, what we'd love for you to hear is that really this is an invitation. Jesus is the invitation for you to have a relationship with God. And me too. It's not just you, but us to have a relationship with God. Unpack that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I think in him being fully God, in him being just 100% of that deityness. I don't know how to describe that godhood. We have the assurance of knowing that because he is 100% God, that the work that he does on the cross is not in vain, and it's not lacking in any sort of power. It's not done without like fullness of like completion, because it is because in his 100% godhood that he is capable of then bringing us redemption through his life. Because it is this very God who was there in creation, who was there before the foundation of the world and all things, who then steps down from that to become man for our sake and for our redemption.
That's good. That's like John 3:16. Like, for God so loved the world that he gave his own one and only Son, that whoever would believe in him would not perish. And so it's like Jesus came, you know, to bring us back, to win us back to him, to die for us, to take the penalty that we deserve. And it's like the only way he could do that was because he was God. And so only God could restore that relationship rightly, and he does that. And I think that's so cool. The pre-incarnate Christ, huh?
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
you get into a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, you know, be reading John 1. Shout out if you have questions in the comments below. We're going to be going through some of, I think, Matthew 1 and 2, and maybe Luke 2, and looking at the Christmas story, hopefully once or so a week here leading up to Christmas. But yeah, if you have any questions, if you have prayer requests, put them in the comments below. We want to be praying for you. You know, we appreciate you guys. We miss you guys. And if you need anything at all, we're here. Know that Alex and Phil are here for you.
Take it easy.
Merry Christmas. Can we say that?
I guess so. Merry Christmas. I hope you recovered well from all your Thanksgiving food.
Yes. We'll see you guys.
See ya.